Hello everybody and welcome to Wull's Wheels. In this video we're going to be finishing off the Fiat Panda 100 horsepower external refresh. So what this video is, basically it's a small compilation of all the things that I've done to change the looks of the Fiat Panda. Now I could have put these things out, as their own little videos here, there and everywhere, but I thought you as the viewer might enjoy it a little bit more if, it was all just one big video. So hopefully you'll enjoy that a bit better. So the first thing in this video is the centre caps for the wheels. Now these were looking a little bit old and tired, a bit like the badge that you saw in previous weeks. So I decided to change those out. So here is how I went about doing that. We're going to be looking at changing the centre caps here, which are old and faded. I mean, they've been on the car since new. This car is a 2008 Fiat Panda, so they've been on since then. And we're going to be replacing them with these shiny new centre caps to make it look that little bit fresher. Now, you may have seen a couple of other people on YouTube take these off by just simply putting a bit of tape on, pulling it straight off, and then it comes off, and then they replace it. Now, that's all well and good, but unfortunately that doesn't seem to work with this. I have tried it already, and it doesn't seem to work. So, what we're going to have to do is jack the car up, unbolt the wheels, take the wheel off, take the cap out through that way, and then put the wheels back on. So, it takes a little bit longer, but at the end of the day, it's still going to look just as good. Chock to the wheels behind the car so it doesn't roll back into your lovely garage. The first thing to do is to remove the plastic wheel bolt caps, which was done with ever such good grace. Then it was time to loosen off the wheel bolts to make it easier once the car was in the air. Next step, of course, jack up the car. Having loosened the bolts before raising the car on the jack, undoing them at this point was then a doddle. Tyre off the car, it provided an opportunity for me to check it over to make sure all was well. Here's me gently removing the old centre cap. Next up, of course, it was time to put the new centre caps into the wheels. With the new centre cap in place, it was time to put the wheels back on the car. You'll notice at this point I'm putting the wheel bolts back in and doing them up diagonally. This helps to spread the pressure and give a more even load on the wheel. The last thing to do is to torque up the wheels to their recommended manufacturer settings, and that was the job complete. We've gone from this to this. All centre caps now replaced. I think they look pretty smashing on here. I think they definitely look a lot better than this one does anyway. So that's off and up to the bin. So yeah, as you saw there, that wasn't particularly difficult to do. It was just time consuming basically. Next up, what we got is the rear badge. Now you will have seen as well, I've done the Fiat badge on the back, as I've mentioned already this video once or twice before. But I haven't actually sorted out the Panda 100 HP badge on the back. And that was starting to get a little bit faded through obviously sun fade, UV fade, whatever you want to call it. So here's what I did to refresh that and make that look a little bit newer. In this video, we're going to be vinyling over the badges here to make them look nice and fresh. Now the car's nearly 12 years old. Things like this are going to happen. So what we're doing in this video today is just freshening it up a little bit. So the first thing you want to do, line up your bit of vinyl with it to get a rough idea of the size of your badge, and then cut it down to size. Then just use the squeegee to get right out to the corners. This way then you can help find the edges and where you need to keep your scalpel. There's not really much more for me to say on putting vinyl on the back end of the car, so what I'm going to do is just stop talking for a bit and let you enjoy this sped up footage. To refreshing the 100 HP patch, I thought I'd do something ever so slightly different. Can you tell what I'm doing with it yet? With the vinyl complete, I think it's made a really big change to the back end of the car. So you'll notice what I did there. I put the little Tricolore badge inside the 100, which I think is quite a unique touch. I mean, I've seen a couple of other Panda 100s with that in, but yeah, I like to add my own little touch to it. Anyway, next up we got the indicator lenses on the side of the car. Now they didn't necessarily have anything particularly wrong with them other than the fact that the clip on the back had broken. So here's what I did to replace them, but at the same time I changed the bulbs out as well to make it look a little bit sleeker and a little bit newer. Now of course the first thing to do is to remove the old indicator lens. As you can see here, the clip is very much broken and not holding it in place. The lens only twists to connect to the bulb, so all you have to do is untwist it and pull it off. And here's the new lens and the old lens to compare. Whilst the lens was off, it was a good chance to give it a good old clean around the edges. And then to dry it off as much as possible, we don't want water sticking around behind a lens. Next, whilst I thought I had good access, I thought now would be a good time to change the bulb in the indicator. Seeing as I bought this car second hand, I didn't know how long the bulb that was in there originally had been in there. So I thought now is just a good time to renew it, and then I wouldn't have to worry about having to change it out again in possibly the near future. With the lens now pressed back into its slot, it was time to give it a test. So this side is now done. Let's move on over to the other side where we've got to do exactly the same thing. You don't need to see this in real time necessarily, it's just me changing a bulb and a lens, but I will tell you it took me about 1.5 minutes to do in real time. Job well done, I think. Next job on my list of things to do, change out this orange indicator bulb here for this chrome look one, because what that's going to do is get rid of the sort of blushy cheeky look sort of thing, so then it'll look much more stealthy. And there we go, the old bulb is out, as you can see, and the new one is in. I think that looks a lot more stealth. So as you will have seen there, changing the lens units for the indicators on the side of the car, that was almost a necessity really, because they were just going to fall out at some point sooner or later, which of course is never a good thing. The last thing I decided to do to the car was to add the number plate surrounds, which gave that final little unique touch which I quite liked. So here's how I went about doing that. So the last job on my list of things to do today is to fit my number plate holders for the front of the car, which will really freshen it up I think. So this is the final touch. I'm looking forward to it. Let's just get on with it. Of course the first job to do here was to remove the number plate. The number plate is off, which gives me a good opportunity to give here a good clean. Then of course, clean down the excess muck whilst you've got a good chance to do it. And of course, dry it off. Having slid the number plate into its new holder, it was time to apply the double-sided pads to the back. Now I added plenty here just for a bit of extra security, but there will be some screws put in as well. I then used the scalpel to try and get underneath the little red protective tape. With that all done, it was now time to put the plate onto the front of the car. To do this, I used the screws to guide the plate into the right place. As the front is slightly curved on the Panda, I used some clamps to hold the plate in place and help it curve to the contours of the car. Next up of course it was time to do the back. Now this was the exact same process so I won't show you it again, but here's it all sped up for you. With these little jobs complete, everything's coming together with it. I will say at this point, before I started doing any of these filmings for YouTube, I did also buff, wax, polish the car back up because some of the paint was starting to fade in places, you know, being a red car as well. Red's one of the worst colours to sort of fade in sunlight, so I decided to, you know, buff it, wax it, polish it, everything to bring that back up as well. I also haven't got any video footage of that because, as I said, it was before I started doing YouTube. However, there are other YouTube channels out there which have got videos of buffing their cars, so channels such as Furious Driving, Hubnut, that kind of thing, they've all got their own videos on buffing, so if you want to see how that's done, go and check out their channels as well. For the outside of the car, that's everything that I've got planned to do to it for now. So, I guess the last thing to do is to show you what it's all led up to. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, guys. If you have, feel free to give a like to this video. If you want to leave a comment on some of the things, ask me how I went about doing it and where I got some of the bits to do it. Feel free to ask down below in the comments. If you like this kind of content, feel free to stick around by subscribing. There's plenty more of this kind of content to come. And I will see you next week in the next video. Until then, guys, look after yourselves, and I'll see you then. Farewell.